Is it working?
It's setting up your Facebook something. Oh, there we are. I see us on Facebook. Hi, everybody. I'm Tina.
And I'm Priscilla.
And we are the Sensei Sisters. We are so excited today to have Katherine Klimitas with us. Katherine is from KAK Art and Design, LLC. She's an amazing artist, a good friend. She's a great speaker. And we're just pumped to have her here. Say hi, Katherine.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
So, KAK Art, what's that all about?
Well, the name specifically are my initials, KAK. So, yeah, it's something I started when I was about 10, actually. It's something my dad came up with, and I still remember making my business cards on some cheap print shop software. And actually, I found one not long ago. I need to find it again.
That baby.
I know, I do. But anyway, I started using it when I was only kind of sort of painting for money, and it just stuck. It's just.
Well, I know for a fact that you didn't necessarily think about being an artist until you were the ripe old age of 5. But prior to that, what did you want to be when you grew up, Katherine?
I wanted to be a killer whale trainer when I grew up. I was so obsessed with Free Willy when I was little. Well, when I was little, there were only 2. Now there's 4. 4th one's terrible, just in case you were wondering. But yeah, I was obsessed with Free Willy. I had whales painted all over my walls in my room, and I was just, I don't know why, but that was just my thing. And I wanted to be just like Jessie in the movie. So yeah, clearly there are some issues with that. So that did not work out.
Well, could you just tell everybody a little bit about OI and how that has affected you?
Sure. So I have a genetic bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, which is OI for short, which is much easier. And basically it's a genetic bone disease that's characterized by soft bones and short stature usually. So basically my bones break really easily and they grow abnormally. So, I mean, you can't really tell that I'm like 2'7". I'm in an electric wheelchair. We kind of stopped counting how many bones I broke around like age 10. I had broken about 500. So we just kind of quit there. But that gives you an idea of how many I've actually broken. And yeah, I mean, it affects everything. I mean, it's, you know, I don't know any better, so it's my normal, but it, you know, I grew up much differently than my friends, basically.
Yeah, but you found your passion.
I did. My mom gave me my first watercolor set when I was 5, and I pretty much blew through it in a week. You know, I used, you know, and it was one of those cheap watercolor cake sets, you know, that you buy for a 5-year-old, and it had computer paper or something, and you know, I blew right through that, and I loved it. And so my parents put me in as many art classes as they could. I was in, I mean, obviously art in school, but then also I took some private classes after school, and I took private classes on the weekends. And then, of course, summer camps. I was in all kinds of art-related summer camps.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we know already, but for our viewers, what kind of things do you like to paint?
I paint predominantly animals. I grew up with 2 parents who were veterinarians, so animals have always been a huge part of my life. Yeah.
I did know your mom was veterinarian.
Yeah. We had all kinds of pets when I was growing up. I mean, we had everything from cats and dogs, obviously, to guinea pigs and hamsters, and we even had a tarantula. We had a bearded dragon. We had an iguana. We had birds. We had fish. We had turtles, frogs. I mean, we had pretty much all of it because my dad's theory was that if he was going to have to treat it, he wanted to own one so that he could understand how they live and how they work, you know, how their bodies work. So we pretty much pretty much had it all. The one animal, we had 2 snakes, and when they got too big to eat rats, or they had to eat rabbits, that's when they found new homes. That was a little much for us. We couldn't quite handle the whole circle of life thing there. But, but yeah, they found very nice new homes with people who were snake specialists, which was not us.
We've each had the opportunity to have a snake. One of our children each have had a snake. And
Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were fine. But one of them actually was kind of mean. But they, it's if you can handle that, that's great. And we could do it with the mice and the rats, but once we had to start feeding Bob bunnies, that was a little much. But yeah, so I grew up with animals, and then
the Easter rabbit. No.
yeah. So when I started painting, I started painting people's pets, and so it was great because I had easy clientele, because all my parents' clients knew me because I hung out at the office all the time, and they would say, they see me painting or something, and they'd say, "Here, can you paint my pet?" And then it was, "Here, I'll pay you to paint my pet," which was great. As a 12, 13-year-old, you make $40 in 2 hours. That was pretty awesome. They take much, much longer now.
I was going to say, I've seen some of your work, and if you did that in 2 hours, I'd be super.
Oh yeah, no. It's much more of a process now, but also it's more than $40.
Well, we know all this stuff about you, but for our viewers, you have 2 different books, but your first one, we'll talk about that one in a little bit. But first, I'm going to talk about Read All About Us. Tell everybody how that idea came to fruition.
Yeah. So as I said, I started painting pet portraits. Well, one of the ways I have found a way to make money with my art is by putting it on different products. So pillows, blankets, cups, magnets, ornaments, all kinds of stuff. And I started getting requests for certain dog breeds on these products. Well, the only dogs I really painted were people's pets, and it's weird to put somebody's dog on a product and then sell it to somebody else. Like that's just kind of weird. So I said, well, okay, I'll just take the most popular dog breeds. I'll do some small paintings. I'll do a series of paintings, and then use those to put on the products, and maybe sell the originals, maybe do prints. I don't know. Well, the plan was to do 8 or 10 of them. 8 or 10 very quickly turned into 64, because once you start, and it was hard to limit to 64. At the end, I had to kind of choose between like another 6 or 8 of them, and to cut it off at 64. But as I was doing them, I have a good friend who's kind of my mentor who, saw the process, and kind of halfway through, she was like, you should make this into a book. Well, I had already written a book, and I know how much work it is to write a book. And I said, oh, I'm not writing a book. Like, I'll lay out a book, I'll illustrate a book, that's fine, but I'm not writing a book. And I actually have a neighbor who, the timing worked out really well, because she decided she's been wanting to write for a long time, and she decided to quit her day job and go into writing. And so we were talking one night over wine and snacks, which we do very often. And she said, oh, I want to try, I told her about the idea. She's like, oh, I want to see what you think of my writing. And she came up with a great direction. So basically she interviewed people who actually own the breeds of dogs. So the book is not statistical. There are some statistics in it, but it's more of a personal account of having each dog, and it's told from each dog's point of view. So it's a cute little book. You can get it on my website.
We're going to make sure that we share all that information when we're finished. We'll share in the comments.
Yeah.
Priscilla has a question she's dying to ask you about the breeds.
I want to know if you have a favorite breed, because I have certain dogs that I like they look real cute and stuff, and I say, oh, that's such a cute breed. But my personal dog, I have no idea what he is, and he's crazy. And so I'm wondering if you have a particular favorite, since you have so much experience with them.
That's hard. That's hard because there's anomalies to every breed. I mean, I've had two Chihuahuas, one who was just super loving, loved everybody except my dad for some reason, but loved everybody. And then I had one who literally likes three people in the entire world. So I mean, she bit somebody every day, basically. So she only had three teeth, so it wasn't like the end of the world. But still, I mean, she was not the friendliest of animals, except with us. She loved us, but outsiders not so much. I have a Sheltie right now who is just, that dog is so smart. She is so smart, and most dogs want to obey. They want to make their people happy, right? And Lexi wants to make her people happy, but only if there's something in it for Lexi. So she reasons, and then you can see her reason problems out, and figure out how she's going to get what she wants and still give you what you want. Anyway, I love her. She's also trained as my service dog. She's a great dog. I also have a Papillon Pomeranian mix. We were actually looking for a Papillon because we were trying to get a dog to go kind of with Lexi at the time, and that was a breed we had always thought about getting. And this little dog is awesome. And she's bad, but she's got spunk, and she's got great personality, and she's happy all the time, and she's a great little dog, and she's fuzzy, so she snuggles well, and I love that.
I was telling Priscilla that, I don't know if it was in one of your videos or one of your speeches or something, that you talked about how originally when you were painting the pet portraits, it was all pets that you knew, right? So you knew their personality and everything. And then you said you got to the point where you could actually look at a photograph and do the portrait based on the photograph. And I never asked you this question because like I said, I was watching a video and you weren't right there, or you were speaking and I didn't want to interrupt you. But I was curious how, looking at the portrait, you get a sense of their personality, or why do you think that you're able to do that now?
Yeah, well, when I ask people for pictures of their pets, I usually ask for a minimum of 4, or I try to get a minimum of 4. Sometimes, if the pet has already died, that's not an option, and that does make it a little more challenging. But you just look at them, and then also I try to talk to the owners a little bit too, and say, okay, tell me about Sparky. Like, are there any funny stories? How were they to have as a dog? That kind of thing. And I mean, I've met a lot of dogs in my life, between owning them and then my parents, both of my parents each had a veterinary practice. So, it was a lot of dogs. And I don't know, I think just with practice too, it just worked eventually. Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of happened.
That's so cool. That's cool. I was just curious about that. Who you mentioned your client base. Who are your clients?
Like demographically?
Yeah, like what type of people, aside from people coming to get personal pet portraits, I know you work with a lot of different types of clients.
Oh, yeah.
Clients.
Yeah, so I am educated as a graphic designer. I mean, I'm educated as an artist also, but I have a degree in graphic design. When I was in college, I originally planned to go for fine art. However, when I realized how much work I would have to put out, like physically how much material I would have to put out to make enough money as a fine artist, there was no way. It was not going to happen.
Like most artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason they say starving artists,
Yeah.
And you know, if I break a bone, I'm out for, you know, however long, a couple weeks, a month, sometimes 2 months. And, you know, and then I don't make any money, right? So graphic design is mostly computer based. I mean, it's not all computer based, but it's mostly computer based. So I don't have to move around a lot. It's not as physically difficult for me to do, except maybe my eyes. But it it it's art, but it's more problem solving than art, in my opinion. I mean, everything still has to look good, but it's more about things have to fit in certain areas, certain dimensions, and you're trying to send a message with whatever you're designing. To, you know, you have a specific audience in mind, and you need that audience to get the message that you're trying to send, because normally my clients are small businesses, or musicians, or I work for a couple of nonprofits. So, you know, you're trying to get whatever message across and in the most efficient way possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes on several types of media. So sometimes, like right now, I'm doing a campaign for the New Orleans Musicians Clinic for the Crescent City Classic. And they need, because it's all virtual again this year, most of what we're doing is Facebook and Instagram posts. But those posts also have to be translated into a postcard, like a physical postcard, because when they do their in-person events, which are starting to kind of come back, they want to also hand out postcards, right?
Gotcha.
So, you know, it's problem solving. So that's graphic design. I also do jewelry design, which is probably the thing I do the least out of everything now. It used to be, I used to do it a little more, but painting has kind of stepped up recently. It's beaded jewelry. I've been doing it since I was.
I don't have my Katherine earrings. I usually have.
Anna.
I have so much jewelry that I have bought from Katherine, and I did not even think to put Katherine earrings on today, but they are among my favorites. At least half the week I have Katherine earrings on.
And you pick today not to wear them.
I know, right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
But yeah, I mean, I mean, for people who know me, you know, I get bored really quickly. So I would never be able to do all design every day.
Yeah.
I would never be able to do that. I would never be able to paint every day. I get way too bored. So it's nice to have those things to switch off.
Our mom is a graphic artist too. I think I've told you that before. She taught graphic arts in Delgado for 35, 36 years.
Yeah.
And she's just like that, personality wise. Changes projects.
I'm sorry, my dogs are losing their minds.
It's okay. Last interview we did, Priscilla had a dinosaur, a toy dinosaur somewhere in the room with her.
Oh no.
It kept roaring during the interview.
Oh my goodness. Well, this is what it's like to live in a house with 4 dogs.
Not a problem.
Every day.
I've only got one, and he's the same way. It's like,
Well, and when one starts, everybody starts. You know, I mean, yeah.
it's a group effort. You talked about all different things that you do, the graphic design and art and jewelry. Have you ever had any really, like a client that was like really exciting, like somebody you were really excited about working for?
Oh, I feel like you're fishing for this one. Yes, I have.
Oh, we did our research, Katherine.
Yeah, okay.
We know.
So, yeah, I know what this answer is supposed to be. I love music. So I love live music. So the pandemic has been particularly difficult because normally I am going to see live music at least once a month, and normally it's on an overnight trip. And you know, I work at home and I live at home, so this is normally my break. You know, is to go overnight with a friend somewhere or over a weekend somewhere and go see a huge concert. I have a friend that I met, gosh, I think it'll be 12 years this year, which is crazy. But I met her 12 years ago at Jazz Fest because we were both stalking the artist's bus at the same time. And we ended up becoming friends on Facebook.
Wait, which artist?
Sugarland. Yeah.
Sugarland.
Yeah. And so we ended up becoming friends on Facebook, and we're really good friends today. And we travel together a lot to go see all these concerts. But we met at Jazz Fest. So our tradition is to go to Jazz Fest every May, on the weekend we met. Well, 2 years ago, it was 2 or 3 years ago. If you are a Jazz Fest goer, you'll probably remember this. Rod Stewart filled in for Aretha Franklin because she was sick. I think it was kind of towards the end of her life, and she was not feeling well and not able to do the show because it was like 120 degrees outside. And so at the last minute, they got him to fill in, and we said, well, I like Rod Stewart. I listened to him with my parents because that's who my parents listened to when I was growing up. And okay, that I know Maggie May and a few of his songs, right? So we go and we stake out a spot starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and again, if you've ever been to Jazz Fest, it's like super hot. Okay, he doesn't come on till 4, so we watch all the bands up until him. He comes on and he sees me in the front and starts singing to me constantly, and I'm like, I don't know these songs. This is really bad. Like I'm trying to fake, right, that I know these songs. And I guess I did a really good job.
At least he didn't put the microphone in front of your face.
Thank God. I couldn't have done it. Christy could have done it, but not me.
That's awesome.
And so I'm like, so at the end of the show, he's singing his last song and he points at me and he goes, do you want to come backstage? And I'm like, okay. So, now at this point, I'm freaking out. I'm super sunburned. The only food I've had all day are chocolate covered strawberries. Chocolate covered strawberries. So I'm starving. So we go backstage and he's back there, bare feet, linen, he's changed clothes. He's in like a white linen shirt and pants. And he's just walking around, hanging out with his band. His family's back there. He introduces us to his family and his friends and all this stuff. And then my friend, Christy, I don't know how she managed to have it together to do this, but she says, hey, Catherine's a graphic designer and she loves to design for the music industry. If you ever need something, Rod Stewart, you should call her. Here's her card. And he takes my card and he says, well, actually, I have an album coming out in a few months and I need some cover art for it. I still don't know what I'm doing. Do you want to have a go at it? And I'm like, okay, sure. So anyway, long story short, I talked with his manager that night, still thinking, this is never going to happen. She says she's going to email me on Tuesday. We'll just see. And she does. She emails me on that Tuesday. She gives me the specs, kind of what he's thinking, which was not much to go on. And I worked with him through her for the next 3 months on a cover art. He ended up going with somebody else's design, but it came down to 2 designs and mine was one of them.
That's
so
awesome.
It was pretty awesome. And he paid me, even though he didn't use my design. So I have a check with Rod Stewart's signature on it, which is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Did you cash the check or you just framed it?
Mobile deposits.
There you go. Mobile
Yes.
deposit, and she said,
Yes.
that.
But it was awesome. He was so nice. And just, the fact that he gave some girl from New Orleans that he met at a concert a chance, at that was just, because, when you get to work with somebody of that caliber, the experience is amazing.
You need friends like your friend.
Yeah. It was cool though, because afterwards, when he went with the other direction, he invited us to another show. And so we went to see him in Nashville a month or 2 later, and we had free tickets and backstage passes. And it was awesome.
That is
out
so
with
cool.
him again, and his band remembered us. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Who's that? Oh, it's just my friend Rod Stewart.
I know. Well, and that is the other thing. So we, I try to keep in touch with his manager a little bit, and we were supposed to have tickets for this last year for 2 shows that were comp tickets and passes and all that fun stuff. And obviously that didn't happen, but I'm hoping, I have my fingers crossed that, I mean, as far as we know, it's happening this year. So we'll see.
That's awesome.
That was by far the best. But honestly, musicians in general are my favorite to work with. So
Yeah, I'll bet, especially since you love music so much.
yeah,
It's kind of a double win.
yeah.
We talked about before about your Breed All About Us book, and you mentioned that you had written another book prior to that. Tell us just a little bit about that book and how it has led into the current project that you're doing.
Sure. So my first book is called Looking Up, which I do a lot of, literally and figuratively. And it started off as my college thesis. So basically my professors at the beginning of our senior year, they basically said, okay, at the end of the year, y'all are putting on a show by yourselves. We're not helping you. Each one of you is going to have a project. You have to figure out what it's going to be. The only requirement is that it has to be something that only you can do. So, I mean, that's really big. That can go in a lot of different directions. So I changed my project a few times, but what I ended up coming up with was this book about me that I wrote and designed and did all the photography for and everything. And it's kind of an overview on OI and then about how it's affected me and how it still affects me. It's like funny things people say to me in public, that kind of thing. My worst breaks, which after the last year I probably need to update.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, my basic outlook on life, I mean, that kind of thing. But after my senior year, Arthur Hardy, who, for everybody who's not in New Orleans, he's like the Mardi Gras guru of New Orleans. Everybody calls him Mr. Mardi Gras. He's on the news covering parades, but he's also a publisher. And he picked it up and decided to publish it after I graduated. So it's like a coffee table book. I think it's 96 pages. I could be wrong on that, but it's close, somewhere around there, 96 pages. And yeah, people seem to respond to it really well.
That's cool.
And then I had to come up with a project for my Toastmasters club about a month ago. And I had been toying with the idea of doing a video series because, with the pandemic, most of my sales were done in person. I had in-person shows and exhibits and stuff like that. But of course, none of that's possible at this point. So all of my sales have had to be online. And I have an Etsy store and everything, but it's hard because part of what sold product at these shows was that people got to meet me. And they got to ask me questions about my art. And it really helped to sell it. And so I have been toying with the idea of doing a video series to kind of fill that void as much as I can virtually. Yeah. And so that's what I ended up doing for my Toastmasters project. So it's on my YouTube account and it's posted to Facebook and Instagram, but it's Looking Up, the video series. And I talk about, like I did one on the Rod Stewart experience. And I just talk about me and things I hope people would want to know. If anybody watching has a question they want to ask, I might cover it. So ask away.
I like that. And you and I have talked about this. I like that the videos are short because it's hard to keep people's attention these days,
Definitely.
And Priscilla and I know that from experience. We've been doing our live videos. Although I was telling Priscilla today, right before we started this interview with you, we were looking at your Facebook page, and I was showing her the video with a couple of weeks ago with the boxer jumping on top of Yvonne.
Yeah.
And I said, you see, at least we don't have to work with dogs in our live video.
No, it was so funny because one of the boxers owners does a YouTube channel, but he's in finance and everything he does is scripted out, and it's, to the script, right? He has to stick to the script, and he's watching us do this live video and he's like, how do y'all just wing it? I'm like, well, we're working with dogs. I mean, you don't have a choice. I mean, this last week we had a Boston Terrier and the dog just destroyed a toy right in front of us. I mean, let's it hound on this toy. And we're like, we did say they were destructive sometimes. There you go. Like, exhibit A.
Maybe Carl's got a little Boston Terrier.
Maybe so.
She was just saying this morning that her and her husband spent the morning yesterday picking up toys from her dog that her dog had destroyed.
We pick up fluff every day in this house.
We had some confusion because we walked out in our backyard one time and it looked like it had snowed and it was hot outside and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
It was the inside of a stuffed dog.
Yeah, that happens here a lot. Yep. Oh yeah.
Well, we are going to make sure that we share your latest video, especially, but all the information about you and your Facebook page link and your Etsy page link. We'll share all of that in the comments.
Awesome.
We really appreciate you being here with us today.
No
It's such a
problem.
pleasure. I get to see you a lot because of Toastmasters, but Priscilla enjoyed meeting you at my Christmas party a couple of years ago and was excited to talk with you further. And all of our viewers follow Katherine's Facebook page once we share it, and subscribe to her YouTube. These videos are awesome. And she has also on her YouTube channel all her live videos that are about Breed About Us, and they're really fun to watch. As we just said, they are. I'm sure you could do a lot of outtakes and just do a whole reel, but there's no outtakes on Facebook Live, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of them go really well. I mean, some of them are just smooth sailing, and some of them, like the boxers. I mean, it was a good video. It just was like, okay, Yvonne just got knocked to the ground by a dog. I mean, oh well.
She's really a good sport too. I mean, one's like laying on the ground going, okay, I'm just going to do the interview from here, you know. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you spending some time with us
No
this
problem.
morning, despite all the stuff that's going on around you today. I know you have contractors coming and everything. So thank you again.
Thank you.
To our viewers, we will see you again next Wednesday. In the meantime, make yourself a priority.
Take care of you. Bye.
Now let's see if we can figure out how to go off the air here.